A business always needs a leader. It'll never be turnkey and like open the door and people just come in and it just makes you money. That's the number one misconception in franchising that leads the majority of people to disillusionment. This is why Kim Daly has a business, to open your eyes to what you're actually doing before you give the franchisor money, so you can align this to your goals and make sure that your expectations are in the right place.
So Kim, welcome to the Who You Know Show.
Thank you, Trevor. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited you're here, and I would like to maybe rewind, okay? Because you've been doing this for a little while. I think you got some reps on your belt. You know what I mean? You've been doing this for a while. So tell us about your journey and how you got started helping people to really live out their dreams in the franchising industry.
Great question. So my answer is like the same question like everybody answers, because it's not like people wake up and go, oh, I'm going to own a franchise, right? Like nobody says that. But like you were just mentioning career transition, people find themselves at some fork in the road where they're just like tired of doing what they always did. They got to do something different to get a different result. And that's sort of what I was doing. I actually never worked in corporate America. I ended up right out of college working by answering a classified ad in the newspaper. I ended up working for a franchise company, and not the one I'm part of today, but it exposed me to franchising but most importantly to entrepreneurship. And I said, you know what, I'm going to start a company. So at 25 years old, I started my first company, and I ran that company for 4 to 5 years. But it was around that fourth year in business that I was, getting antsy. I was turning 30. I was traveling a lot. I wasn't married. I wanted to be married and have a family. I just didn't know what future was in front of me. I didn't have a long-term vision, and I knew that I needed one and I wanted one. So it's the same reason that so many entrepreneurs or people who are in a fork in the road kind of turn to franchising, looking for the solidarity of proven systems and people to be in business with. So I found my future in franchising when I was 29. I started this business February 14th of 2002. And my business happens to be to help other people invest in franchises. And here I've been, and who knew that this would be the most amazing adventure of my entire life. I've made history in the franchise industry. I've helped create nearly 1,000 business owners here in the United States over the last 2 decades of my life. I'm super proud of that. Like so many amazing things. I've been able to become an author, launch a YouTube channel, a podcast. So franchising has completely changed my life, and that just drives my passion to help me share my story to help other people, because I know it can change your life too.
Okay, so I love this. It sounds like a lot of positive in there, but I want to dive in a little deeper, okay? Because you've been doing this for a while. You've seen it all. Tell me the worst franchising story you got. I want to hear of that one that just like exploded on you.
Like
it just didn't work.
Franchise company exploded on us?
No. Like somebody that just was like, you know what, I'm going to get into this, and just totally missed all the red flags and ended up like broke on the street. Like, you know what I mean? Like, give me the worst one. I want to hear
anywhere good, focusing on why it isn't going to work. You know what?
No, because the lessons are in the failures. So if we could talk about who's not a good fit for this, because it's not for everyone, I'm sure. So tell me that story of somebody who just like, man, it was like, they shouldn't have done this.
All right. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you a story. Actually, you're in Dallas. So this is a true story about 2 people from Dallas. So the first candidate that I met, Dallas. So he lived in Plano. So he was a former military guy, right? So this guy on paper is like my dream, right? He can follow orders and processes. He's a systems guy. He got out of the military after 20 years, and then he had a corporate sales background. So that's even better for owning a business, right? Because when you understand how to drive revenue and you have communication skills, these are key skills to running a business successfully. So I because of my relationship with franchisors and my knowledge, I know where veterans really excel, like the culture of the franchise that's going to speak to that veteran. So I said to this guy, hey, so I have the perfect franchise for you, but let me ask you, you can't do it in Plano. So like, would you commute for your next corporate job? He was in transition. He was like, well, of course. I said, cool. Because you can't do this business in Plano. It's already sold there. You've got to go over here to this little town called Rockwall. Now, the first thing this guy said to me was, and these are the key words, people in Rockwall don't spend money like people in Plano. And I said, really? Well, the franchisor believes that demographically that Rockwall market is solid. So how about we open our minds, we get you out validating with other owners in Dallas, because there were so many wonderful people who were doing great things with their lives, and let's see how they feel about the Rockwall territory. So he and his wife got out there and they did all the research, and anyway, long story short, they decided we're going to make it a go in Rockwall. So 18 months later, the franchisor calls me back and says, Kim, Mike's decided to go back and get a job. No harm, no foul. You know, the business just didn't work for him. He firmly believes that the territory is not viable for our business. Now, of course, he never called me because I probably wouldn't have. I would have like really pushed him a lot on that. I don't like it when people don't make the most of their moment. Now, my faith in the franchisor was not shaken at all. So when they said to me, because this is $1 billion brand, when they said to me, will you help us find, we know you have a lot of candidates from Dallas, will you help us find somebody to own the territory? I said, sure. So the second guy that I found, on paper, not nearly as qualified as the first guy. But this guy was in transition from Home Depot corporate. This was a painting franchise. So the second guy happened to live in Rockwall. So when I said, hey, you can own this business and you can do it in your backyard, he was ecstatic. He didn't have any of that head trash, right? That people in Rockwall don't spend money like people in Plano. Well, that second guy went on to do over $1 million in revenue in his first 12 months out of the gate. And he went on to become Rookie of the Year that first year in business. So does that answer your question?
Yeah. I mean, so the first guy just didn't even do it?
No, because his limiting beliefs, right?
Yeah. But that's not, I want to hear, I got you. I was looking for a failure. Like that guy just didn't even do it. He didn't pull the trigger. So, I mean, I guess where I was going was more like, hey, I want to do this business. I get into it. It's not right. Like I find out later on that maybe I'm not cut for entrepreneurship or business ownership. I get into it. Like tell me who it's not a fit for. Who is this not a fit for? And I think that can help us because I want to help weed out the people who it's not a fit for. Right. And it'll also speak to those who it may be a fit for. Okay. And you know what I'm talking about? So who's franchising not a good fit for from your experience? Yeah.
So first of all, you have to have money, right? This is an investment. So minimally, you need a certain amount of money. I'd say minimally about 100,000 liquid, 50 to 100,000 liquid, and a minimum net worth of about 250,000. The more money you have, the more options you're going to have, like anything else in life, right? But that's sort of the minimum. And just because you have the money, you have to have the mindset to be able to invest the money. So coming with that scarcity mentality, it's really hard, right? Because you've got to feel like you have more than enough money and you have the ability to invest that money, knowing that you're planting seeds that are going to produce a harvest long term. Okay, so there's that. Then you need basic skills. So you need to be a sales, be able to drive business development. You need to be a manager of people, one or the other. You don't have to have both. But so the people that don't succeed in franchising are ones that don't want to grow personally and professionally. So everybody wants the financial reward, Trevor. But what I'm here on my soapbox saying is, look, they ask me questions. Can I make $1 million? I'm like, I don't know. Can you? Are you willing to grow personally and professionally to become the business owner who can create $1 million worth of value? Because people think, I bought a franchise. This should be easy. The people I just build it and people come. That is absolutely not true.
I think what they feel is that I'm buying a McDonald's and it's just going to run itself. Right. So there's different types of franchises too. Can you speak to that? Like, I'm sure there's some where you got to roll up your sleeves, get in there and run some things. Yeah. They may have, they've got everything mapped out. They've got the systems, the processes, the structure, right? All of that's in place. But you got to roll up your sleeves and get in there and work it. And I'm sure there's other where it's more turnkey, where you're just kind of buying something and running it. Like, talk to us about that.
It's totally true. So a business always needs a leader. It'll never be turnkey and like open the door and people just come in and it just makes you money. That's the number one misconception in franchising that leads the majority of people to disillusionment. This is why Kim Daly has a business, to open your eyes to what you're actually doing before you give the franchisor money, so you can align this to your goals and make sure that your expectations are in the right place. So even in a Chick-fil-A, right? So Chick-fil-A is enjoying this amazing moment. But the reason they are where they are today is because for the past 30 or 40 years that Chick-fil-A has been franchising, their franchisees have executed perfectly to the core values of their leader, Truett Cathy. So when we look at that brand today, it's like, wow, it feels like build it and they will come. But that hasn't always been the case, right? That's 30 or 40 years in the making. The vast majority of franchises that I'm helping people get into are way back in the beginning. They're in the first 1, 5, 10 years of growing the franchise brand. So you're the pioneer carrying that brand to the next generation. So when the next generation wakes up, the time to invest in Chick-fil-A isn't now. The time to invest in Chick-fil-A was 10, 15, 20 years ago, right? Because when the world wakes up and the brand is already at its peak or past peak, the equity that you're building isn't as big as when it's on the move up, right?
And the money you got to invest now. I'm sure Chick-fil-A today versus Chick-fil-A 15 years ago. Good Lord. I bet today it's like 5 times as much just to get into something like that, right?
That's another myth. No, like the cost of opening like a McDonald's or a Chick-fil-A, that remains the same. Unless like the franchisor, the only reason the investment goes up is not because the brand has more value. That's if you're buying an existing business for sale. So if you were to buy an existing, business that now like a Planet Fitness or Massage Envy that has sort of like reached its peak and everybody knows it. So if you're coming in looking for one of those franchises for sale, you better believe you're going to pay a super big premium for whatever that franchisee has created. But if you're building it from scratch, it's the same. The only reason the investment goes up is because franchisors realize, oh, it costs us more money, or hey, we had to redesign the store, and so the build out's more money than it was 10 years ago. Those kind of costs change, but the value of starting it from scratch is the franchise fee is the franchise fee.
Gotcha. Okay. So, but if it is established, like we were saying, so if it is a McDonald's or a Chick-fil-A, it's going to be at a premium because it's already established. Is that what you're saying?
It's an established business that you're taking over, correct? Not starting one from scratch. So the people that I help, I'm contracted with franchisors for new growth. So I want to help you be the one bringing that new brand to the Dallas market, being the one securing the Friscos and the Plano, the best markets in your area, building those locations. So when the whole world wakes up and everybody wants one, and you own the best territories in your market and you have the most established businesses, that's when private equity or buyers come in and go, wow, there's tremendous value there. I'll pay you a 6 multiple, 8 multiple, 4 multiple of your cash flow to make you go away.
Hold up. So that's good. Oh, okay. So you get involved for a few years and hopefully, you drive that thing up a little bit and, these investors come in and want to scoop you up and buy you out. That's what I'm hearing?
Correct. If you
pay a premium. Okay.
Value. Correct.
So let me ask you this. What is one of the biggest common misconceptions about franchising that you hear a lot? Like as you're speaking with people, what's that commonality, that common question you get from people you're working with that's kind of like, no, let's debunk that right now.
Franchising is way more than food and retail. Right? Like, so we've talking about food. I mean, you have to beg me to show food. I'm the #1 consultant in the US and I will not bring you food. If you think you want food, I'll bring it. But I guarantee through my process, you won't pick it. And if you do pick it, God bless you, it's on you. The reason people pick it is because they think that that's all that there is in franchising, because as consumers, that's what we see the most of. But when I get you thinking like an investor and you start thinking about the environment that you're creating and waking up and the hours you're working and the people that you create jobs for and the customers that you serve, there are easier, faster, better ways to make money than in food. And I know what they are.
Ooh, she knows what they are, y'all. You hear it? She knows the good ones. Okay. Can you share a few of those little
Sure.
diamonds? Okay, I
Yeah.
want to know
So,
about the little diamonds in the rough.
right, when people say, what's your favorite franchise? I don't really have a favorite franchise. I have favorite characteristics. So I like businesses that are low investments, that have low fixed costs, that have reoccurring revenue, right? So, and ones where people don't need special skill. So that's the sweet spot for me. And that could look like a million different businesses. For example, you could pick something in the home services space where you don't need to go build a physical location because your business is mobile. You're going to go out and serve your customers on their property. It could be something in the yard like fencing or irrigation or power washing. These aren't necessarily sexy businesses, but when you step back like an investor and you think about the lifestyle, let's say you have a power washing business, right? And you power wash fences, homes, commercial buildings, graffiti off of bridges and park benches, even buses. So you have B2B and B2C customers. Well, this is a non-emergency response business, right? So no one has to have it done tomorrow. So the lifestyle of that business could be Monday through Friday working hours, right? You have a small team of people. You don't need heavy insurance to protect your people because they're not driving big, expensive equipment, right? They're working a power washing machine, right? So then you have a marketing plan. You build relationships with customers. I have a fence. Chances are the fence needs to be power washed every spring. I live here in southern New Hampshire, right? So if you do a great job, this isn't rocket science. I'm calling you back next year. In fact, just put me on your calendar and come back out, right? So you can build long relationships with people that serve over and over and over, and you don't need a special skill. So you're not looking for like that diamond in the rough employee. You're looking for people that want a great job, who want to work for a good boss, who like to be outside, right? You find those people and you become the leader and you create a culture where these people feel respected and admired for the work that they do. You pat them on the back, you buy them lunch, you treat them well, and they stay with you. It's a pretty simple business. Owning a business is complicated enough. We don't need the business to be complicated, right? The business should be simple. Because the complication comes in, finding the right people and keeping those people. That's hard. Finding customers when it's a competitive landscape, keeping those customers, that's hard enough. And that's where we're going to be leaning into the franchisor, the systems, the marketing, the digital SEO they're doing. Maybe they have a call center to take that first customer's phone call so that while I'm out working my cruise, I'm not missing calls. This is where we start leaning into what are you offering me, Mr. Franchisor, that if I was to go start my own power washing company, I would have to create on my own.
Okay, so I asked you earlier about the failure story, right? Like the person who just didn't cut it, right? Tell me, let's flip that and let's go into one of your best success stories. Somebody that came in, maybe they walked in after they just got let go from corporate America or something like that, and they're all like, "Ugh." Got beat down, and then next thing you know, you've transformed their life. Tell me a story like that.
Okay, so this is kind of a fun story. So when I first met this one gentleman, I literally did not want to help him. This was years ago when I still believed that I was to play God with people's lives. So what I mean by that is people will ask me, Kim, are you going to tell me if I'm not a fit for franchising? And I say, nope, because I can never predict who's going to make the most of their moment. I just gave you a story a few minutes ago, right? Where I thought the first guy was the guy. And then he didn't show up for his moment. He had all these limiting beliefs. So this is going to be the opposite story. So, and this goes again, this is before I realized that it's not my job to tell people they're not a fit. So this guy, to your point, Trevor, beaten down by his manufacturing background. I'd say that he was clinically depressed when I met him, totally introverted. I thought, dear Lord, I do not want this on my conscience. So I called one franchisor, my really good friend named JT, and I was like, hey, I'm going to send you a lead, and I need you to challenge this guy such that he figures out he shouldn't own a business. So JT does his job and he calls me and he's like, Kim, like I've challenged this guy and like, I don't see any reason to not award him a franchise. I'm like, really? Like seriously? So as the franchisor like made this guy like tell us why, He told him all the reasons why. He just roared back. His passion for changing his life came through. Well, that guy today, so this is a company that today has over 900 franchisees. That guy today consistently performs in the top 25 out of 900 people. He has a business in Maine where he does over $200,000 a month in window treatments in Maine, in a single territory. So like, there's so many things about that story, like that the results of that are absolutely like ridiculous. Window treatment.
And what did that do? What did that do for his life? Okay, because we could say $200,000 a month. Okay, cool, right? But how did that change his actual life?
Well, I don't know.
Because for all I know, that guy was already doing well in his life. I don't know anything about this guy. So, how did that change his life?
Well, we have to imagine that he's now waking up totally in control of his schedule, his time. He's investing time doing things that he enjoys doing every day. He feels confident and in control. He feels successful because he built something from nothing into a top performer in a massive, global company. Who doesn't want that story?
I was just trying to make sure because, like I said, people come from all kinds of different backgrounds and stuff like that. And some people get into franchising that might be already doing well. Some people maybe it's like an opportunity, like we were talking backstage for freedom, right? Maybe they came from a corporate rat race where they're just kind of like tired of the corporate grind and this is their opportunity to own and control their time. And so I've seen that before because I've been doing this with job seekers. My main audience is the career transition community, and working with them, I've seen it many, many, many times. I got a guy I'm working with right now, literally right now, who's getting into a franchise. I had some guy that was getting into some closet, like building, like shelving, inside the closets, all that kind of stuff, like custom closets, right? Got into that. And a lot of times what I'm seeing is I see a common thread in what I do. I see a common thread. Typically, these people are in their they're like senior level executives. Typically, they're maybe in their early 50s. They've got a good, savings, okay, because they've worked, they've saved, they've earned throughout their career, and then corporate America isn't so nice to them. They work their way up that corporate ladder, got a good salary, and then these stock-owned companies are making financial decisions about the companies, and when the company's not doing well, they literally let go of thousands of employees, and so they get let go. They get the axe after putting all of their time and effort and energy into a company and basically bleeding for that company, and then all of a sudden they get the axe and they're like, psh. So they start exploring. They start looking at, hey, what can I do differently to make sure that never happens again, right? And so I've seen a lot of these people, actually. I work with a lot of them. And
that's my number one guy. So your audience is my exact audience.
Okay, so there we go.
Yep.
So that's what I was looking for. Like, and again, I always, when I sit down with them and I do some discovery, because I do financial services. And so I'm doing some discovery with them and getting to know them a little bit better and figuring out what's going on in their world. And some of these people I know are not cut out for it. Or, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't make that determination. Some of these people I feel are not. Some of these people I'm like, yeah, dude, that sounds amazing. You should go for that. You know what I mean? And so, but that's typically the thread of person that I have seen commonality in is they're like probably early 50s, probably got a good sizable retirement, investments. They've got good savings, so they have that investable dollars, and they're just tired of working for someone else. They're just tired of putting all that energy and time and into somebody else's logo, right? That has all the control, and then they give them the axe.
Right. When you've invested your life helping somebody else make the money, and you've been at their whim, and then they are their beck and call, and then they just let you go. there's a resentment that builds up there, and people can only do that for so long. So, but then I have people that love their corporate career and they're in their 40s, but they just know that there's more for them than that glass ceiling they're going to hit. Or in order to really climb the ladder, they have to be willing to move, and they don't want to do that. They have kids who they want to keep stable and in school, while they're in school. So there's so many different reasons. Other people are like, look, I'm making all this money, but like, I don't want to put it in the stock market. I want to invest it in something where I can own it and I can control it and I can build a legacy that I can leave for my kids. So those are all motivations that my typical candidate has. I also work with people that buy and flip homes, or they have Airbnbs, they have rental properties. And so they're already wealth builders. But most people in the wealth building community understand the foundation of that wealth building is a business, and they don't want to be an entrepreneur who slaves away for 3 to 5 years with the likelihood of failing. And that's where franchising meets them, because we can buy down that learning curve. We can get you to profitability faster and get you to where you're scaling, because no matter what you're doing to build wealth, it's always about scale, including owning a franchise. It typically won't be one location or one territory of anything. It's how can I leverage my time to scale? And that's where franchising wins, because franchising is created for scale.
That's good right there, what you just said, because a lot of people have a dream. They want to, they have that entrepreneurial spirit, right? But it's tough to create something brand new. It can be tough, right? And so you're creating something from scratch, and the failure rate is really, really high. We all know that, and so they typically can burn out in, like you said, 3 to 5 years, a lot of times even quicker than that. A lot of these businesses fail, right? And then they're back to the corporate grind. They're back to the corporate grind. I know someone right now I'm thinking of exactly, one of my clients that I'm working with right now, like literally, she went literally all in to try to create her dream. And it put her in so much debt. She broke herself on that. I mean, it hurt her really, really bad. And so she's like, all right, I didn't want to do this, but I'm going back to the corporate world, and maybe she would have been
like, so sometimes like that's where business coaching can come in. And then other times it's like, this is where when I'm doing my initial discovery with candidates, it's not about like putting you in a position where you're betting the farm, right? So I want you to always have cushion to fall back on. I want to help you buy that business you can more than comfortably afford, because mentally going in with more than enough helps you to have that abundant mindset. So that scarcity mindset that we talked about in any way, whether it's I feel like I don't have enough customers, or I feel like I don't have enough labor, or I feel like I don't have enough time, or I feel like I don't have enough money to really make this go. No matter what you feel limited by, your thoughts will make that true. And so that's why when people ask me, are you going to tell me if I'm suited for this? I say no, because there's no way for me to know that. Your thoughts control your reality. So only you can control your thoughts. So, and it's also like why you see people in it. And sometimes when people are failing, that's when they have their breakthrough moment. And that's when they then turn it around and make it successful, because they got to themselves. They went through all the negative beliefs, and then they decided, you know what, I can control this and I can own it. And they're like, I am not going to be a failure. And that desire to not fail spurs on the thoughts to, I want to be successful. And now they've removed all the blockages, and now they can finally have the success. But success doesn't have to be that hard. There are very simple things you have to do, just like when you go to the gym. You didn't go to the gym one time and then look in the mirror and be like, oh, I'm all buff or whatever, right? You had to do it consistently. The same thing in owning a business. You have to work the fundamentals of your business consistently. You have to train your mindset to think positively and to keep executing on the fundamentals with consistency. It's not about perfection. It's about consistency.
And that's the thing too, what we were just talking about. So the person I was thinking about was literally creating a business from scratch, right? So there are no fundamentals. She doesn't know the fundamentals. She's starting it all by herself and trying to figure it out as she goes, right? Burning through money, like most entrepreneurs do. We have a dream, a vision, and we're just, we start before we're ready. right? And that's a good thing. I think that's great, and they just get going, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. Okay. And in this case, it didn't. Right. And I think for her, it could have potentially been a great opportunity because she had the resources, she had the grit, she's got the work ethic. She put in it just didn't work out. And I think she would have probably been a great candidate actually for a franchise because you do have the blueprint, you do have the fundamentals. All you got to do is put yourself in that, follow those, be consistent, like you were saying. And the roadmap is there, right? Just follow the roadmap, do the action. You have to take the action. Otherwise you're not going to get the result. But if you take those actions, you should see a result. So I think she would have been a great candidate for that. And I think probably unless there's a purpose-driven why behind an entrepreneur wanting to create their business, like unless there's like something that they're deeply passionate about, if you're just looking to start a business because you want freedom and control, right? If that's your reasoning, if that's your why, you might explore franchise because I think it could potentially be, a better opportunity for you, right? Somebody's already gone through the headache. Somebody's already, failed to figure out what works. And that's what, if you're starting from scratch, you're going to have to fail to figure out what works. And why not just leverage someone else's failures and pick up the blueprint that they've already got and just roll with that.
Owning a business is always about making money. So entrepreneurs, you're right, they have a burning desire. They're an inventor. Franchisepreneurs are people who want to take systems and execute and make money. So, and the easiest people to convince of the value proposition of a franchise are those who've been entrepreneurs in the past. Because if you've ever started a business, whether you're successful or not, once in a lifetime is enough of that. So, I work with many former entrepreneurs. There's like this stigma about franchising, like an MBA, somebody who has a Yale education or whatever would never own a franchise. Look, I have worked with people from the MIT School of Business and shown them the true value of a franchise because the franchise is it's not an easier way. We don't have to be like the heroes of the world, like being the inventor, because when you look at the statistics of those who make it in entrepreneurship, they're so low. So you can take even a pioneering franchise that has no franchisees, where your franchisee number one has more than you have as an entrepreneur. Right? So if you want the entrepreneurial ride, join a young franchise that doesn't have a lot of proof yet and be a franchisee with some systems, but also a ton of freedom to help that franchisor build it. But for most people, that's a very hair-raising, experience that when you have, mouths to feed and mortgages to pay, you don't have the luxury of betting that way. And so here we are putting the odds in favor of your success. If you find a good culture of people inside a franchise that you believe in their vision and what they're trying to build, you don't have to buy a business that's your passion. I've never proven that to be the thing that leads to happily ever after as a business owner, right? There's tons of books that do what you love and the money will follow. And, but in franchising, I've never proven that because what you love is time and money. And so if you find a franchise that affords you the time, the quality of life that you want, and the money that you need to live that quality of life, most people let go of their attachment to the widget when they fall in love with the outcome. So when you work with me, we start with the outcome. You're going to do some vision exercises because I'm way more interested in what you want to achieve through the business, like building that legacy for your kids, or finding a business where you and your spouse can work together, or having a business that allows you freedom to take a month off and to take vacation with your family. There's all different outcomes. Maybe it's a business where you only work Monday through Friday. Maybe it's a business where you only work Thursday through Sunday. there's all different scenarios. And if you're out there on your own trying to figure out what kind of business can afford you these outcomes, I don't know how you'll do it. Right. But when you come to me, I have 22 years of relationships and knowledge. I know what franchise systems will afford you those outcomes. So that's
I would never, ever listen. I would never try to figure that out on your own. Because, I mean, come on now. You just don't know what you don't know. All right. And you're going to get out there and you're going to try to figure. No. I'm going to get with you. I'm going to get with you so you can show me what I don't know. Because I know I don't know it all. Right. Yeah, just even in this conversation, I'm like, oh, I didn't know that.
My services are free. Like I'm paid by franchisors like a recruiter. So you have nothing to lose. And at the same time, you're not my client. So I set you free from me. I say, look, this is free advice. So take it or leave it. You have to make the best decision for you. I'm going to teach you the questions to ask, the methodology to be thinking through, the process to follow. But ultimately, your decision, yes or no, is on you. Now, if you're out there on your own, most people who've looked at franchises have too many limiting beliefs and assumptions that they believe to be true, and they stop themselves. Other times, people will spend 5 or 6 months and then still not be able to feel confident that they can say yes. Over here, when you work with me, it's a 1 to 2 month process. And it will not even take you 2 months to get to a no. It'll probably take you about 2 weeks. And that's just because I'm going to set things up in such a way that you're going to come to that place in your mind. That's the tipping point. And you're going to just self-assess. Can I push myself through this? And if you do, you have a very high likelihood of going on to become a business owner about 4 to 5 weeks later. And if you can't, no shame. Maybe it's not the right time. Maybe franchising is not the right investment for you. There's so many different reasons you may say no, but I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to be the guide.
I love that. There's a lot of variables, okay? A lot of variables in this. And you need somebody to help you kind of figure all that out, and figure out what's the right fit too. Because like you said, there's like a billion different franchises. So you got to figure out which one's right for you. Okay. Talk to me about also why in the franchising industry, typically they perform, they do okay during economic downturns. Can you talk to me about why that is?
Sure. So, and even if we go back to the pandemic, that time we all want to forget, the reason is because when you're an entrepreneur, let's start there. When you're an entrepreneur, as we've already set up, you're out there on your own. You are on an island by yourself, making it up as you go. When you're a franchisepreneur, everything you do is collective. First, you have this parent organization that has resources and experience, money being a resource and experience. And so maybe buying power, like all these different things that can help shift your model when times get tough. Or because every business is a dynamic environment, it always has to be growing and adapting and getting better in order to stay above the competition or ahead of the competition, in order to remain relevant to the customer, because customers just don't want the same thing over and over and over. So when you're an entrepreneur, not only are you trying to figure out how to make money today, but you have to be present enough to be future casting how you need to grow. Well, when you're a franchisee, all that future casting is done by the parent organization. Now, that doesn't mean you have no say in it. Of course you have say in it. Franchisors create franchise advisory committees, which are top performing franchisees, right? Those who have mastered their model and earned the right to speak up. And then those franchisees feed the feedback from the franchisees to the franchisor, and that's how adaptations are made. So this is a collective, collaborative environment, and we all know together we're always stronger. So when we come together and we all bring ideas and thoughts and feedback, then that is what allows franchises to adapt more quickly. Like, I'll tell you, going back to the pandemic, the number one business that I placed people into throughout the US, including California, was a business called Yoga 6. A yoga studio in a pandemic when it couldn't even be open. And that's because it was the most amazing leadership by that parent organization that adapted the model to be virtual and inspired their franchisees. This virtual membership was supposed to be a corporate revenue stream, but they turned it around and said to their franchisees, if you can keep your members on draft, we'll give you the membership dues. So 80% of the membership worldwide stayed on monthly draft. Now the franchisor went to bat because they manage all of the leases. They went to bat with every landlord and nobody paid any rent. So their franchisees were telling the story. They were making more money when their physical doors were closed because their biggest fixed cost, their rent, was gone. It was abated. The royalties were abated. And yet 80% of their members remained on draft because they had they flipped their classes to virtual. And because this is a global franchise, during the pandemic, they added something like 25 million new people around the world. So the company was still growing.
Sounds like college, like the college experience during the pandemic, because all the colleges shut down, but yet they were still charging the same tuition and all that stuff. And they went online and it's like, what? How am I going to pay the same amount to sit behind a computer versus going into the actual university? Like, you know what I mean? They
no one cared when it came to fitness, right? There were certain things like church and fitness we were willing to do just to be able to do it until we could get the doors reopened. And because franchisors were eager to get doors open, and not in every state like New Jersey or California, they stayed on lockdown way too long, but in your Texas, in Florida, in other states where they could quickly come back online, the franchisor could adapt the model with cleaning, with, spacing things so that people could come back in a shorter amount of time. So we saw franchises opening in June and July. And the most important part of this conversation is the emotional support to the business owners. Because how many mom and pop businesses out there, we'll never know, but how many of those people just mentally got in the fetal position and thought, oh my God, we're never going to make it. And then that's what they made true. But when collectively people came together and they rose above their own fear and they said, together we can figure out how to do this, right? That emotional and mental support probably was the greatest factor. And going back to your question about changing economies or harder times, if you're going to be a business owner, you cannot control the economy. I've been a business owner for 26 years. I had my first history-making year in the heart of the recession in 2011. I made history in my industry. So if you're going to get into business ownership, you can't control the economy. If you want to, just stay on the sideline because you're never going to be able to do that. So you have to feel confident that you can make it.
Even that doesn't make sense, staying on the sideline, because guess what? We're going to have a downturn, and then your company that you're working for, okay, is going to give you a layoff. Okay. So there is no job security. Okay. That's a false statement. Job security, whether you're working for someone else or you're doing it for yourself. Okay. There is no job security. Okay. Because guess what? That company is going to go through a downturn and they're going to have big corporate layoffs. Or you're in a business where all of a sudden, the pandemic or whatever else impacted your business and maybe put you out of business, right? Either way, listen, you just there are risks and you got to be okay with the risks either way. And if you're okay with it, I'm an advocate for people doing something like this if it makes sense. I'm an advocate for people doing entrepreneurship if it makes sense. And I'm an advocate for people working in corporate America if it makes sense. But they just need to understand the pros and the cons. There's options to this stuff, right? And it's like there's no one right or wrong way to do it or go about it. And one of my issues is the way that we teach kids nowadays. It's like, got to go to college. You got to do this. You get your degree. You go and you get a corporate job. We're just trying to create a bunch of corporate slaves. I don't agree with that. I think we need to be teaching kids stuff like you're talking about. Why not teach them about this as their kids? Why not teach them about entrepreneurship and different ways to create wealth other than go to college, get a degree, do your 9 to 5, work for someone else, right? Work for the man. Right. I don't agree with that. That's what I don't agree with. Let's talk about options.
I agree with that. And here's the thing. When you dare to pursue your dreams, like some people really want to be legacy makers for their family, but the greatest legacy you'll leave your children is the role model that you become. When you dare to follow your dream, no matter what that is, that changes the environment in your house. And those kids will pick up on that. Like my boys, I have teenage boys, they think of nothing but being business owners, and especially franchise owners, because that's the world that they've been raised in. They see the quality of life that mom has, that we have as a family. And that's what they want, that time freedom, that freedom to be passionate. They know that I work a lot, but they also know that I'm happy and I'm passionate about what I do. So I think that if you have that burning desire to be, to create a legacy for your family, it doesn't have to be that you leave them a specific business. The legacy you leave is the role model that you were to your kids.
That's so good. That's so good. And I think, just education on all of these different, different options, as me, and again, in financial services, I'm a fiduciary. So part of my job is to educate people about what their options are, pros and cons. There's no one size fits all, but I feel like our society is teaching kids a one size fits all. And that's not true. It's just false. And it's actually setting people, it's setting people up for failure. I mean, how many people do you know that go to college, okay, either don't get a degree, don't finish, okay, they burn a bunch of money, don't finish, they get a bunch of debt, or whatever degree that they end up getting, they don't use, okay, right? How many people do you know like that? Now, I'm not saying it's bad for anyone either, because there's a lot of people out there on the flip side of that coin that go to college, get their degree, execute, and they're doing great. But again, we're just teaching one model and that's it. And I think that's the wrong part. Let's not just teach one model. Anyways, this is a great conversation. Tell me about your book. Okay. I know you're a best-selling author as well, and you got some other things going on, but tell me about your book and what readers can expect from that.
So I've been a co-author of 2 books. In both books, one's called Franchising Freedom. And in both books, I write about mindset, because the mindset shift is what took me from 8 years as an average performing franchisee to 1 year later doing over 350% more revenue. It wasn't like my skill set changed from 2010 to 2011 that allowed me to have this breakout year and make history in my industry.
Can I touch on that real quick?
Yeah.
What do you think, and I'm sure there were multiple things in your mindset, but if you had to pinpoint it to one, what's that thing that really shifted you from being like average or mediocre to like absolutely just dominating the game? What was that one thing for you?
So I said I just got sick and tired, Trevor, I knew that I was made I made a decision. I mean, that's what it comes down to. It's like you can just keep doing what you do, but you're never going to get something different. And I was just tired of that. I knew that I could figure this out. So I didn't have a business degree. To your point, I have a nutritional biochemistry degree. I'm not using my degree except for my passion in fitness and nutrition, but not to get paid. But I was a summa cum laude graduate through pre-med. So I'm like, Kim, you can figure this out without a business degree. I was intimidated by what I was doing. And instead of like using that to fuel me for the first 8 years, I allowed it to be a crutch. And then I just got tired of that. And I said, you know what? This is my goal. I don't know if I'm going to get to it, but I'm going to put my head down and I'm going to figure it out. And so for 1 year, I came to work every single day, writing down that goal. I wrote it down once every single day. I recited it to myself every single day. I plastered it in front of me. So when I came to my office, it was in my subconscious. This is what I am worth. And I am going to work to make my efforts match that. And at the end of that year, I was $4.28 over that goal. Now that goal was over 350% greater than anything I had ever earned in the same business.
So it's drawing the line in the sand, making the decision, okay? And I think that's so important. There's been times in my life where I had a situation where when I first got into financial services, I was really struggling, okay? My first year was really bad. And I remember just feeling broken, feeling hopeless, worthless, feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm a failure, all that kind of stuff. And I remember like enough was enough. One day I made a decision, no more stinking thinking, right? No more stinking thinking. Like I remember just like this is it. I'm done. I remember literally saying out loud, like, I'm done. Like, I'm not going to think this way anymore. No more stinking thinking.
You have to get sick of yourself. Right? You get sick
do.
and
You just
tired
have
of
to be
yourself. Yes.
like, forget this. Yeah, hell no. I'm not doing this anymore. You know what I'm saying? And like, it is a mindset shift. And when you draw that line, like you said, make a decision. And I talk to the my job seeker community all the time, and I'm like, listen, you got to make a decision too, because I hear a lot of victim mentality over there. I love these people, but you know, a lot of victim mentality sometimes, you know, because they got let go. Yeah, of course.
It's
right?
easy.
Of course.
It's easy to blame other people.
Of course, it's easier. It's easier to point the finger at other people for your circumstances than it is to take accountability. And, you know, and it actually kind of feels good too. I'm not going to lie. It feels good to be like, you're the problem,
exactly.
right? It's like, it doesn't feel good to like point the fingers at yourself and go, I'm the problem, right? Or what could I do differently? Yes, there were these external circumstances. Yes, that they're out there. You're never going to have it all under control. Like there's external circumstances. However, how did you react to it? What part did you play in, you know, your reaction, you know? And so accountability to me is super, super important. And that's really what that line in the sand is about.
Ownership, accountability, same word.
100%. Yeah.
You say, who is this not for? People who don't want to be accountable to.
Ooh.
Period. That's the best answer to that question you asked me minutes ago.
Mic drop. Let's go. Okay. So if you cannot take accountability in your life for
everybody
the ups and the downs.
wants to own it when it's good. But people don't want to own the process of getting to good, right? They want to blame franchisors. They want to blame the economy. They want to blame it on everything. And I am not preaching to you because I was that person. And then when I decided to own it, it changed everything. Now, let me tell you, that first year, that's all I did. I just told you what I did. So the second year, it was harder to stay at that level than climbing to that level the first year, because the first year there was no expectation. It was just a hope, if you will, like faith. But once I did it, now I had, my ego was involved, and I was like, now I'm like, can I do it again? So it seems like, wow, it would be easy to replicate that, but it wasn't. And that's the second year, which is now my 10th year in my business, is when I really had to really dive into all of my data and come up with what is now known as the daily plan, hence my business, the Daily Coach, because it was this daily plan where I literally reverse engineered. All right, so this is what I want in the outcome. Now, I had to use all of my data to back end it into, what do I have to do today? How do I have to show up today? Not for the entire year, because this is another mistake that business owners make, right? So let's say in the course of a year, you need to generate 500 people that know that what you do, right? That's an overwhelming number if you're sitting in your office today going, how do I find 500 people? But if you back end that into, or let's use 300 so we can make it my daily plan. So if you're going to work 300 days, giving yourself 65 days of vacation, and you're like, okay, so I need one person today. And it allowed me to live in the moment. It allowed me to be hyper-focused on only today. And that was a mindset, right? So it's easy to get anxiety about tomorrow, but then you steal the joy from today. So what happened, Trevor, is when I started controlling my mind to be hyper-focused only on today, and every time I started to future cast and feel like I wasn't enough, I brought myself back to today.
That's so good.
You know
That's so good. Hold on.
You know what happened? So
what?
My passion started, I felt unstoppable, especially as I got skill to accomplish today's goal, and it started happening. And I came to work and I'm like, in the first 15 minutes of the day, boom, my goal was done. And so the rest of my day is gravy. Well, after I started doing that, people started calling me and they were like, you're so passionate. Like, I firmly believe, like, they wanted what I had. And I was like, franchising is the way. I was convicted because I'm now using my franchise to change my life, but it wasn't the money. It was how I started showing up every single day, and the passion that I had in my body every day, and the satisfaction and the freedom and the relaxed, like comfortable place of like, I can do this, the control. And so that's what I realized. That's what everybody wants. It's the money is the byproduct. That's what I call the abundance effect. When I tipped the first domino by getting control of my mindset, focusing it on today and executing and delivering today, and then coming to work tomorrow and delivering that day, that tipping that first domino then created this effect of an abundance. And it was like every single door started to open. People who weren't buying franchises started buying franchises. People that were not referring people to me started referring people to me. And it was this avalanche effect. But I'm going to take ownership of that. I created that by changing my mind about what I was thinking about and focused on every single day. And so this is when I get on my little soapbox and I say, everybody can be successful, because I'm going to teach you how. You have to do the work. And I don't know if you're willing to do the work, but if you're willing to get hyper-focused on today, living in the present moment, showing up for today, for your staff, for yourself, for your family, it will change everything. And that's why I'm known as the Daily Coach. It just so happens when I'm like, what do I name my company? My last name was like the best name ever.
Wow. Okay. No pun intended, right? Okay, cool. But no, seriously, that's good, because you can only really control today anyways, right? Tomorrow is not promised. Tomorrow is not promised to any of us. Okay. We don't know how much time we got. That's why I tell people all the time is time is the most precious asset that you have. Okay. It's scarce. You don't know how much if you even have. Like, you don't know. You know how much money you have. Money comes and goes. Okay. But time, we don't know how much time we got. We only got what's here, what's right in front of us. So make the most out of it. Right. And so I love that you did that. Every single day you're focused on today. Right. Yeah. You want to cast your vision. Yeah. You want to have this big goal. La, 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 la. Okay, that's all important. Okay, and to backtrack into, I love that, because you're taking that big goal and you're breaking it down into bite-sized pieces for today. What can I do today? And I love that formula, because I use that in my business as well, and it works. Right?
So simple.
It is simple,
Not
right?
Easy, but it's simple.
The part that's hard, the hardest part to any of this is the consistency, is what you talked about.
Yeah.
You have to be consistent.
The daily grind.
It's the daily. Yes. It's like you were talking about in the gym, yeah. I mean, if I'm only going every once in a while and you're not consistent, you're not going to get the results. But if you're doing it, consistently, you're going to see results. So that's the hardest part. And there's going to be days where you don't feel like it. There's going to be those days where you're like, ugh.
This is the accountable part, though. This is I wanted to own it. And this is where we just have to be the adult that says, this is what I said I wanted, and this is the path to it. So it's showing up, not just when you feel like it, it's showing up every single day. But here's the thing. When you look back at that first year that I made history, I was only 80% effective at achieving my daily goal. And this is when I saw that on paper, that's when I had the aha moment of, perfection is not the goal. Consistency is. So just start and get better as you go. Probably the 20% that I wasn't consistent was in the first 3 or 4 months, trying to figure out how to produce that daily lead that I needed, because I had no skill for that prior to that, right? I didn't have the skill of like being focused. But once I committed myself and I reminded myself by having it all around me written down, and I came to work reciting what my vision was for the year and knowing exactly where I was today. Because what so many business owners do is they get very good at being busy. We're all good at being busy. But busy and productive are different. So I now flip-flop to where the first half of my day was on me being productive. So any fire I had to put out, anything that I had to deal with that was the busy work, I saved it for later in the day. It would be there. It would wait for me. But if I put off, that's why a lot of people have to work out in the morning, because if they put it off, they're not going to do it. It's the same thing in your business. It's getting hyper focused on those 1 or 2 or 3 activities. So as a business owner, there's many things you have to do in the course of a day or a week, but there's only a few things that actually move the needle. And so it's getting clear, not lying to yourself about it, and then showing up for those things first. Put your best energy, your best attitude, because when you start getting successful, you'll take that success abundant attitude into the rest of your busy work. But what you're going to find out is the busy work, the problems, even those start to disappear, because the attitude of abundance will trickle into all parts. Your employees will start showing up better for you. Your kids will start behaving for you. I'm not kidding. People think, Kim, that's too simplistic. I'm like, it's not. Have you ever met somebody where it just seems like they're like everything in their life is good all the time? Now, I don't mean like being fake about it, but I mean legitimately. They're just like happy, abundant people. The reason everything in their life is good all the time is because they are happy, abundant people. And that attracts.
Well, they're building momentum. You're building momentum, right? Momentum is a real thing. Energy is a real thing. And so when you're talking about there's positive momentum that creates positive energy, and then there's negative momentum that creates negative energy. And so there's like that snowball effect in a positive way and a negative way.
Totally.
So it's the same thing when somebody's like, man, you ever heard somebody say, today's one of those days?
Yeah, of course.
Man, today's just one of those days.
What if you meant it like, today's one of those days? I just made $1 million today. Like spend it positively.
Right. So you could do it in a positive way, and that energy will carry over, right? But again, it goes both ways. So you can have it in a negative way too. And you know what? Hey, let's be real at the same time. We're going to have both of those days, regardless of how we want to set our intention of being just the most positive person in the world. Sometimes you're going to have a bad day.
Yeah, but you don't have to be perfect every day.
Yeah, sometimes you're going to have a bad day, but how do you handle the bad day, right? What do you do during the bad day? What do you recognize about yourself? So I noticed with myself, I give like 120% every day. But what sometimes that means is I'm going to have a day where I'm a little bit empty. I'm running low on energy, and I recognize it. And so what happens to me is I know, okay, wow, I woke up today. I'm just in a funky mood. I'm in a funky mood. How do I get out of that mood? Well, you know what? Let me see what I can do. But sometimes that just means literally, and this is going to sound weird, but sometimes I just need a nap. Let me get a nap in real quick. I need to get a nap in because I recognize that about myself. And what happens is I get that little quick nap, and it resets my mind. So my mindset is the funky. Okay. My mindset is where, because I'm tired, my energy's low and I'm kind of grumpy and I'm kind of like, and then I get that nap in and I'm like, it's a new day. Like I'm wake up, I'm refreshed, and I'm ready to rock and roll again. And so that's what I've recognized for myself. Now, everybody's different. You got to recognize what is it for you when you're having those bad days, when you're having those that, like I said, today's one of those days. What's really going on? What's happening? For me, I know it's a lack of energy. It's I need rest. I know that's what I need. What is it for you? It could be something different, right? So I'm curious, Kim, what is it for you? When you're having a bad day, have you noticed any commonalities for yourself that you're just like, is there something that you've noticed?
Same as you. I mean, I'm a single mom, my house, my kids, they're needy. Those kids are needy. I run 2 businesses. So the same thing, I work out 5-6 days a week. I mean, I'm always trying to be at the top and growing. It's by my personality. But yeah, it's usually a time off thing. So I can be a workhorse and I can get into the zone, and then I come up for air and I'm like over Christmas, I got a little sick, and it turned into 3 weeks of sick, but I totally deserved that. And I almost because the fourth quarter of last year, I was doing a whole bunch of new things and a lot of things were going on, and I was in the flow, but it was still a grind. I mean, I was passionate for 3-4 months solid, but it was still a grind, and it still took a toll on my nervous system. And so what should have turned into, a little cold that should have been a couple of days turned into me being sick for almost 3.5 weeks. But I sort of told everybody, because I tell everybody sickness is a choice. So, because I'm a nutritionist, I'm like, sickness is a choice. It's a mindset. And so people throw it back at me when I get sick like that. They're like, why are you choosing to be sick? And so I was like, I am choosing to be sick because it forced me to stop and rest my nervous system before something really bad would happen. And I don't encourage that, but it's more about, like you said, being self-aware.
Yeah, you got to give yourself permission.
Yeah,
you got to give yourself permission to rest. And a lot of times us,
crazy
entrepreneurs,
people.
we're crazy people out here. We're just, we're just hustle, right? And it's like, no, hold on, give yourself permission.
It was so good though, Trevor. I was able to do my first keynote to franchisees. And that was in November. And so in August, I started every weekend because I had to take extra time. I've never done it. I had to watch TED Talks on doing a good, keynote and watch Death by PowerPoint and all these different, how do I come across effective? What are the key points? So I first had to study, and then I had to figure out what do I really want to say to these people? And then I had to create the PowerPoint, and then I had to memorize the PowerPoint. So during my week, but what I found was, because I was growing so much personally through this journey of being offered the opportunity to be a keynote speaker, that my business was on fire. And let me tell you, I used to be like, oh, that's a coincidence. It is not a coincidence. I was attracting so much abundance to me because my mindset was in such a growth place. We had moved out of our house. My home was being remodeled. We're home now. So we were living at the beach in this amazing rental property, and there was just so many growth things happening all at one time. And like I said, it was all good, nothing bad. But I was working 7 days a week because on the weekends, my mind was hyper-focused on the keynote. And then Monday through Friday, I'm, managing candidates and running my business. And so it was just a lot.
And here's what I want the audience to do. I want y'all to connect with Kim, because here's the thing. Okay. Whether you're looking at a franchise or not. Okay. Because we all need help with mindset. Okay. And one of the things I can tell, listen, just for this interview, she's got conviction on this mindset stuff, man. She is convicted. She sold herself on it. She is sold. She is like, yes, it's all about mindset. Like, you can feel the energy. Like, she's just pumped up. She's been drinking her Mountain Dew. You know what I'm saying? She's all jacked up on Mountain Dew. So, Kim, this has been an amazing episode. I really appreciate you. Where can the audience connect with you? Where's the best place?
So my website is The Daily Coach, DALY, thedailycoach.com, but I'm on all the socials. It's usually at The Daily Coach, YouTube, kimdaly.tv. So please look me up. I do have tons of videos. Half of my content is focused on franchising, the logistics, the specifics, the hows, the whats, the debunking the myths. And half of my content is focused on the business coach in me that wants to help you not just say yes to the dream to be a business owner, but show up every single day in that ownership of, a mentality that's going to allow you to actually live a successful life as a business owner.
Let's rock, let's roll, let's go. Cash flow. Thanks for listening to the Who You Know Show podcast. My name is Trevor Houston, and if you've enjoyed this episode, consider subscribing wherever you listen and leave us a positive review to help us keep the mics on in the studio. Until next week, that's the show. It's all about who you know.